Hello, and welcome to this video tutorial on wall hatchings. In this tutorial, we will be going over the methods and techniques to quickly and efficiently hatch walls in a finalized drawing. While this process is very straightforward, I found the hatch command can be quite annoying at times. I'll be going over the correct settings you should be using, as well as some problem-solving techniques to help you get through the command. We begin with a floor that has already passed the review process and is considered finalized. If ever unsure if a floor is ready for hatching, you can ask the person who reviewed it or check Asana. It's very important to always check there due to the scope of the project being different for each building. To start the process of hatching, I like to freeze out certain layers so they don't interfere with the hatching process. More on that later. I'll always freeze out the grid lines and the labels, but sometimes I'll also get rid of the tenant layers. Set your layer to the correct core element you'll be hatching. It can be helpful to start at the top of the hatching layers and move down the list so you don't miss anything. Type in your hatch command. Quick command is H. Check your settings and make sure you are using the correct hatch type, which is always solid. You will also always want to have Create Separate Hatches selected. By default, I have Associated box also checked. Also more on that later. If you select this arrow, you can see the settings that I'm using. The reason I like to freeze out the labels is because of this next example. Having the labels overlap the wall line work is not good. You should always strive to keep the labels inside the room they are in, and this is why. Having this label over the wall will create another boundary that the hatch command will see, and it will not hatch this area. It will be harder to hatch the area or alter the hatch boundary, so this is why I always freeze out the labels. If you do not have the Create Separate Hatches option checked, it can severely impact your hatching process. If you go to remove a hatch with this option off, it will delete every other hatch you made while using the hatch command. This will create more work for you and the review team, so this option must be used. One of the settings that I like to have on by default is the Associative Hatch option. If you do not have this option checked and change the wall's line work, the hatch will not move with it. This can be useful in some cases because you can click on the hatch to select it and use the grip points to change the hatching. You can see that having this option on will allow you to stretch the walls and the hatch will be changed with it. This is because the hatch is associated with the boundary of the line work. It's up to you to know when to use these different options. I like having mine on associated by default because you can always unassociate it, but you cannot go the other way. One reason to have a hatch not be associative is so that you can alter the hatching by using the grip points. You can see here that the hatch does not reach the mullion track with the wall because the perimeter line work interrupts it. By clicking on the hatch, I can now use the middle grip point and stretch it to the mullion track and complete the hatching. One setting I like to have off is the HP Quick Preview setting. If set to on, this will give you a preview of the area you are hatching. You can move your mouse around and you can see the hatch moves with my mouse. I don't like this option on because it takes up more time when hatching. However, you may like it. It's completely personal preference. While hatching, it can make the process go by much quicker if you have good line work. In this core area, there are areas where the line work has been filleted to create corners. The hatching process can go by much quicker if a lot of the wall's inner line work is trimmed out. You can see in this example how much more clicking you have to do because there are more boundaries to hatch. When your line work is trimmed and connected properly, it makes the process of hatching go by very quickly. In this corrected example, I only have to click a few times to complete the core. One problem you might come across while hatching is this pop-up box. It states that the specified point is located on an object. This happens when you click on the line work of a wall. This happens to me when I am zoomed out trying to hatch and the area I'm trying to click on is very small. A second problem that occurs is when you click outside the boundary you want to hatch. You will either get another error dialog box, or which as you can see here, hatches the entire tenant area. You can often tell this will happen because the hatch command takes a very long time to process. I've sped up the part of the video until the program actually hatches the area, but it does take a very long time. If this happens, you will want to check the corners to see if your line work needs to be fixed, as this is another reason why the outer area can get hatched. Another problem you might come across is this pop-up dialog box. A closed boundary cannot be determined. This often happens when you are zoomed in on an area you are trying to hatch and the command cannot see the end of that boundary. The other time you will see this is if your line work is not connected or filleted properly. You can see it gives little red circles around the areas the program thinks it is not connected. The easiest way to counter this is to have good line work, or to have the wall completely in view while hatching. There is a setting under the options drop-down while hatching to change the gap tolerance. However, I do not like using this because having good line work is more important. The last step is to always review your own work. It is critical you get in the habit of doing this on anything you work on, as it can save hours on the back end. There are many ways to approach this. You can check the perimeter first and move in towards the center of the building, or go around in a circle. Whatever method works for you, give it 5 to 10 minutes to look over. Missing this little area of hatching causes this floor to go on an extra day, when it could have easily been caught if you take time to look at your own work. This concludes our video tutorial on wall hatching. I've hoped this video has helped, and thanks for watching.